Sport, and particularly adventure sports, provide a platform for amateur athletes to test themselves against one another and occasionally against the top professionals. The Absa Cape Epic is one such event, where 1,100 amateurs tackle exactly the same route as 100 or so of the world's best professional mountain bikers. It's one of the hardest races on the planet, demanding peak physical fitness and deep mental strength. In 2019, South African-born Jaco van Gas, a single-arm amputee, defied the odds to complete the race. So let's get to know this remarkable young man a little better, starting with his early years.
I had a great upbringing as a kid, very supportive parents of anything I do. As anyone in South Africa, went to a pretty good school. I went to Technisch Hoër and studied part-time. I worked for my dad. We had a tiny little family business. So my dad was an entrepreneur, so a number of small little businesses. The plan was originally to kind of take that over, get to learn his contacts and kind of just keep on going with the family business. But I always inspired for something new, something bigger. And I learned that we can join up in the British Forces because we're part of the Commonwealth. So sold everything I had in South Africa, my bakkie, anything I owned, I sold. Used the money to buy an airplane ticket to the UK and went over and joined the British Army and loved every second of it.
Jaco lost his left arm while serving his second tour of duty in Afghanistan. He gives us the background to what was a life-changing incident.
So I went through my basic training in a little town called Gatwick, up in northern England, which is very cold. And as you would have it, I would start my basic training there in the middle of the winter. I found it extremely hard. It was very, very tough. South African boy coming into the UK, into the midwinter. We were doing runs and we had to do little water crossings and the ponds would be frozen over. So they would drive a jeep through the water to break the ice and then we were running through it. So I really struggled with the cold, my hands, my feet and everything. So that was very tough. But I made it through basic training and then I joined my respective battalion. So I trained to become a paratrooper, a British paratrooper. So I then went on to the Parachute Regiment and I was a mere 6 months within my unit, still learning a great deal. Every day you're learning more, number of courses. I got a call up to go to Afghanistan for my first tour. I was replacing someone else and it was very fast. It was last minute. I was actually on a training course, which I got pulled off on, got back to the barracks. All my desert kit was already in my room. I had to pack a few bags, made a phone call to my parents saying I'll be out for a few weeks. And that was it. I flew out the next day. And that was my first tour to Afghanistan. 6 months there, loved every second of it, really good. So I came back as a young Tom, a young private soldier with quite a bit of experience already. And it was towards the back end of my tour. I did 5.5 months. I had I think I had 2 weeks left before returning to the UK, having done another successful tour. That we were going on one of our final operations. Very successful operation. We conducted the mission that was stated to us. We captured the guy that we were after, and it was actually on the way out, on the exfil, to where the helicopters were going to pick us up and fly us back to safety. A call came over the radio from the pilot saying he wasn't happy with the landing site, so he gave us coordinates for a new pickup point. So this took us off a proven route. So we knew the route was safe to the helicopters, but now we have to go to a point which was unproven. So we went to the new pickup point, and on the way there we came across a Taliban stronghold, which we didn't even know was in the area. A big firefight broke out, and about 15 minutes into a severe firefight, I was hit from the left flank by an RPG, a rocket-propelled grenade. And that hit me from the side. That night I was attached to a sniper, and I was carrying telescopic ladders, which we used to climb over walls or onto the roof of a building. And luckily, to a degree, we were making turns carrying the ladders because they're really, really heavy. But to a degree, luckily it was my turn to carry it because this rocket was coming from my left side. I saw it very last minute and I twisted my back towards the oncoming rocket and most of the impact was absorbed by the ladder. But the blast blew me in the air 5 meters away from my original position. It severed the arm immediately. I was quite dazed and confused, not really knowing what was going on. All I can hear was the boys firing in the background and I just needed to get back to them. My training just kicked in going, right, something happened, but you still need to suppress the enemy. And I was trying to pick up my rifle and fire back when my rifle just fell to the ground and I looked down and I didn't understand why. And that's when I looked down and realized that I've lost my left arm.
With his active military career at an end, Jaco sought to return to sport as a means of satisfying his desire to be physically active. This despite the loss of his arm.
Due to my role within the army and the role my unit played, we were extremely busy all around the world doing various bits. So sport kind of took a bit of a backseat. I've always had a passion for sport and especially cycling. But since the injury, it was the one thing I was like, you know what, I really want to get back on a bike. So I started looking into various adaptations and I started speaking to a few people. And I've actually been then put in touch with a guy called John Allen Butterworth, who was at that point also an arm amputee, but he was on the British paracycling team. So I started looking at what he's riding and how, prosthetic-wise and stuff like that. So I then eventually got a bike and I started riding with just one arm. Not using a prosthetic, but the pressure through the one arm, your palm and your shoulder, and even just the ability to react for a pothole or when trucks or cars come past you very closely. I didn't like it. It just felt too unsafe. So I then opted for a prosthetic, and then it was just something I had made up. That's actually, I wanted to get back on a motorbike eventually first before I got back on a bike. So I just used a prosthetic that's meant for a motorbike and adapted that to my bike just so I can ride a bike again. So I wasn't in the greatest position, but as I progressed over the years with cycling, I then refined my prosthetic towards my cycling. And now I have a really good prosthetic that's in a great position. It's light, it's aerodynamic, but yeah, so I really much rely on a prosthetic now, especially for cycling.
There are countless road cycling and mountain bike events Jaco could have chosen to tackle. So why did he decide to take on the race regarded as the Tour de France of mountain biking, the toughest of all the mountain bike stage races, the Absa Cape Epic?
Being a local boy, the Cape Epic's been running for 16 years now. I've always had an obsession with it. I've always had an interest in it, and I've always been following it. And it was one of those, one day I want to do that, one day I want to do that. I took a wild chance and I emailed the guys, from the Cape Epic and said, this is the idea or this is what I want to do. And they kindly granted us a space. And that email of confirmation came through going, you have a space for the 2019 Cape Epic. Was quite a bit of a shock. I didn't really think it will happen. Then I started speaking to a few friends, what's it about, how hard it really is. And we started doing a bit of digging because there's some legends on the Cape Epic. Someone like Ruben, who is a below-knee amputee, who's done it 4, potentially even 5 times now. A very good friend of mine as well, who's I competed against in professional cycling. Dane, he's an arm. He's lost his left arm as well. He's completed before, but the difference was that these guys have done it with able-bodied partners because you have to race the race with as a team of 2, and they've always had able-bodied partners. Now I know Ruben and Dane has tried it before, so what we've just done, me and Stu, many years ago, and they didn't make it, and I think it was due to Ruben's stump, sadly, because there is quite a lot of walking as well. It's not just riding your bike. There's places you have to carry your bike up a hill or even down. So, and they've not attempted it again as a wounded pair. So there was this little gap that I saw, and I thought, you know what, that's very, very interesting and very attractive as well. And that's where I then went on to go, I need someone that can do this with me. But not, I need someone that I can get along with. I need someone that has the right mindset for it, and someone that will relish on this expedition as well, or this challenge. And that's where I came up with Stu Croxford, my riding buddy. I sent him a text saying, it's been a while, we need to catch up in London for a coffee. I then presented the idea to him. I said, there's this race in Cape Town. It's mountain biking. It's not too hard. Do you fancy doing it? And he's like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I've never been to South Africa. It would be a good trip to kind of do that and see. I was like, exactly that. So I had him. He signed on, and then the organisers released the route for this year, and we all received an email. I was actually on my bike training, and the next thing I know, my phone's ringing, and it's ringing, and it's Stu going, have you seen what they've released this year? It's the hardest, it's the toughest mountain bike, or Cape Epic ever, and you've signed us up for this. And like you said, we don't even own a mountain bike. I was a roadie, I'm a track cyclist. Stu's a road cyclist and a triathlete, so yeah, we didn't even own mountain bikes at this stage, and we were going to take on this toughest route ever.
Riders with physical disabilities have completed the Cape Epic before. Blind athlete Hein Wagner and single-leg amputee Ruben van Niekerk among them. As a two-person team race, Jaco had to find a partner to ride the Epic with, and fellow soldier Stu Croxford fitted the bill.
I think my wife knows that I definitely have a little weird addiction to challenges, and Jaco I've known through our recovery journey from the army, and he probably realised the same sort of thing, that I quite enjoy seeing how far I can push my body, and especially not just physically but mentally, how much you can put yourself through, and the amazing feats that your body can achieve. So yeah, I came on a journey, and I'd never been to South Africa, and there was an opportunity to come and do the Cape Epic, so came along and yeah, thought I'd give it a go.
This combination was different to all the previous physically challenged teams in that both Jaco and Stu had disabilities. Stu lost a leg while on military duty. So how did the riders around Jaco and Stu handle their presence in the field?
The other riders were absolutely amazing. I think I've never been to, I've done plenty of other endurance races, triathlon, Ironman, etc. And competitors in that are so friendly and always willing to help, but everyone's in their own sort of bubble and they're in their own zone. On the Epic, your 8 days, you're living with the other riders. You're absorbing the whole atmosphere. You're feeding together. You're in the masseuse tent together. You're riding with the same group all the time, and you're bumping into different people on the course. And everyone was so friendly and wanting to support each other and get people through the hard days. And not everyone has the same hard day, so it's amazing to have such a group of people who didn't sort of shun us because we were road bikers. They were always really keen to encourage, and I think, and hopefully, my main aim was that they didn't realise I was a complete novice on the mountain bike, and hopefully I tricked them.
The Absa Cape Epic is a tough challenge for two able-bodied riders. So just how difficult was the Epic for Stu and Jaco?
So it's always, the worry is how the leg is going to react. I'm always going to end up with pressure sores, especially on the back of the knee. Every amputee will have certain areas where they know they get certain problems. So again, it was part of our plan that we made sure that we've got to survive the 8 days. We could have pushed through day 1 and 2 and really gone for some fast times maybe, but then would my leg have sustained another 6 days on top of that? So it was really keeping on top of the skin, making sure that didn't get a problem. You're out on the bike for potentially 8 hours. So it's quite a hot environment within the socket. So you've got risk of infection, you've got risk of the skin breaking down and becoming too painful. So we really kept on top of that. By the end of the week, the volunteers that were at the water points were unreal. They were literally probably the heroes of the course for us, because when we came in, they were just there, anything we sort of needed. And we got it was sort of like a Formula One pit crew by the end of it. We'd managed to get our times down. At first, the first few days, we were sort of maybe spending 20 minutes at each water point trying to get through and just make sure we're on point. But by the end, we were sort of 5-10 minutes in and out. And yeah, it was amazing sort of teamwork there.
Stu and Jaco completed their first Absa Cape Epic in 48 hours and 54 minutes and rolled into the finish at Val d'Avenia Paarl in 499th place out of 550 finishers. So, will they be back again?
Yes, definitely. I thought the event, I mean, it was the logistics, everything around it, I mean, were mind-boggling. The riders, being able to ride a pro race, that you see these guys go down and the speed they can get down. And on the prologue day, it was amazing just to sit after you'd been down the same course and then watch the real guys smash it down there. But then on the stages that you went through, that the pros were at the front, they were blistering times, and you'd see at a water point the pro winning time, and you'd be thinking, how have you managed this? But then you really looked at the people around you and you thought, you know what, we're grinding out for 8 hours on this course, and then your huge respect for the riders around you for what they were then putting their bodies through, that they were living in tents, didn't have the support team around them, they didn't have necessarily the mechanics sorting the bike out, getting their nutrition sorted, and seeing the whole event on that scale, I'd come back and have that experience. Maybe not tomorrow, but maybe next year, yeah, definitely. I'd definitely love to come back.
Two inspirational young men, Stu Croxford and Jaco van Gas, proving that physical disability is no obstacle to achieving your goals.